Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. Sorry that it took me a little bit to do this next video. I was just sleeping in for a bit because I needed to get some sleep. Because I was up till like 2 in the morning trying to figure out this Destiny thing with my game, and it was just frustrating. So I was like, shit, I can't do this strike thing. So it was for the mission where you have to fight Omnigul, one of the Hive witch queens or whatever. So if you've played Destiny, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, definitely go check out that game. It's a really good game, but it's mostly online, so you gotta have internet and also Xbox Live too, or whatever system you have. But I'm returning to you for best albums of 2022 so far, part 2 video. So this is gonna be the continuation of the last part. So I'm going to discuss from 18 to whatever number I get to and let you know my thoughts on it. So let's dive into this best albums of 2022 so far, part 2 video. Now at number 18 is Rammstein with Zeit. Now I personally like this album. I didn't have any issues with it. It's a pretty good album, just there are some songs on there that I don't know if I like Zigzag, and the song Zeit was really good, for sure, in my personal opinion at least. But yeah, I think with what they went for with this album, wasn't that disappointing. I can't remember all the songs because it's been a few months since I've listened to the album. Used to have it on my phone. I just had to delete it to clear out space so I can listen to newer albums, of course, for the third quarter of this year. But yeah, Rammstein did very well with this album, in my personal opinion. So definitely go check this out if you haven't listened to it. The song with Commit or whatever, the first song on the album, was really good for sure, in my personal opinion. So at number 18, I picked Rammstein with Zeit. At number 19 is Martin Garrix with Sentio. Now, I was really surprised with this house kind of music that he went for. It's more dubstep house kind of music, but it's pretty good. I wasn't disappointed with this. Follow was a pretty interesting song. If We'll Ever Be Remembered was pretty good. There were some other tracks on here that I did enjoy, like quite a bit of other songs. I can't remember exactly all the track names, but you can remind me in the comment section below. Uh, But my favorite one was the final song, If We'll Ever Be Remembered. That was one of my personal favorites. I was like, this is a good song for sure. So at number 19, I picked Martin Garrix with Sentio. At number 20 is Sigrid with How to Let Go. Mirror was my favorite song. Bad Life was actually pretty good too. I wouldn't say it's the best song, but it was pretty solid, or at least a good song. It's grown on me a little more. It just depends on how you view the song, of course. Uh, there were some other tracks on here that were pretty interesting and worth checking out. So, yeah, I highly recommend you check this album out by Sigrid. It's pretty good for what it went for. And she did pretty good on this album. So, she's a pop artist, so pop R&B kind of stuff. So, if it's not your kind of style, then you'd have to find something else to listen to. But if it is, then definitely go check this album out. So at number 20 is Sigrid with How to Let Go. Number 21 is Silverstein with Misery Made Me. Now, this was my favorite album this year. I think I might bump the rating up a little more because I think I really love this album now. I wouldn't say it's the best album. The Alter Mary is growing on me. It's taking time. It's weird with Shane Told going crazy in that song with his screaming vocals, and the lead singer's name's Shane Told. But Ultraviolet was my favorite. Uh, and and Cold Blood was alright, I guess. It wasn't spectacular. And sorry, I'm about to get a ding from my. Yep, I got a ding from my messenger or whatever. But yeah, Silverstein did pretty good on this album, and I highly recommend you check it out. Misery, the final song, was pretty good, and there were other songs like Slow Motion featuring Mike Renica, my favorite. Don't Wait Up was good. Bankrupt was great. Um, Live Like This was amazing. Live Like This is growing on me. It's actually a pretty good song, and just it takes time to grow on you, I guess you could say, with the melody. But for what it went for, it was pretty good. And the first song, what was it called? Our Song, that was pretty good. And there were some other tracks too, like It's Over, and uh, there was one song on the album that I can't remember for the life of me, but I've heard it so many times. So yeah, I'd have to listen to this album again. But Alter was a solid one, but Mary was really good. That was probably the stronger part of the song. So, yeah, number 21, I picked Silverstein with Misery Made Me. Really good album. Definitely check this album out if you haven't listened to it. They're a metalcore band slash post-hardcore, but they do pretty good with their sound. Number 22 is Ibaraki with Rashomon. This was a really good album for sure. It's more black metal kind of stuff and death metal stuff or whatever it's going for, but it's really good. I was really surprised with how the lead singer from Trivium, I know his name, Matt Heafy or whatever his name is. Uh, yeah, Matt Heafy from Trivium made a new band, and he wanted to try something different with this sound. He did a song with Gerard Wade, which sounded really good. And I think Gerard Way was doing screaming vocals. I wasn't 100% sure who was doing it or not, but definitely go check out my album review if you haven't seen it yet. Because I think you'll like it. So at number 22 is Ibaraki with Rashomon. Number 23 is Hailstorm with Back from the Dead. Now this was a pretty good album. Really good in my opinion. There were some other tracks that I did enjoy from this album, but for what it went for, Wicked Ways was pretty good. The Steeple was pretty good too, in my opinion. I think the first single that came out, Back from the Dead, I wasn't sure if I was feeling for that, but I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on this album, I guess you could say. But other than that, this was a pretty good album for sure. So at number 23 is Hailstorm with Back from the Dead. Number 24 is Wind Waker with Love Language. Now, Beautiful was the first song on the album. But for what it went for, I was pretty interested in this album for sure. There was some rapping, screamo stuff that Will King did or whatever, the lead singer of the band. And I wasn't sure if I was feeling for it, but other than that, it was a pretty good album for the sound they went for. I wasn't disappointed. There were some songs I wasn't sure if I was on board with, but other than that, maybe like two songs. I can't remember for the life of me because it's been a bit since I listened to this album. So at number 24 is Wind Waker with Love Language. At number 25 is Kendrick Lamar with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Now, this was a lengthy album. I think it was like 70 something minutes, maybe longer. Can't remember exactly, but for the whole tracks, there's like 9 songs on each part to it. There was one song on here that was really radical, and I was like, damn, this song went hard. So I was like, man, the song really did go hard. It was called We Cry Together, featuring Taylor Page. I'm just looking at it on my notebook if you're wondering. And there were some other songs like Father Time. N95 was actually his best for sure. He was going hard with his rapping verses. So I was really surprised with Kendrick Lamar on this one. The Volume 2 version of it was probably the least favorite, but other than that, it was good for what it was, despite some critiques I have for it. But still, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, definitely check this album out. In my opinion, I loved it. It was a pretty good album for what it went for, so 8.5 out of 10 I'm still giving it. So at number 25, I picked Kendrick Lamar with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Number 26 is Harry Styles with Harry's House. Now, I liked music at a sushi restaurant, or music for a sushi restaurant. Late Night Talking was pretty interesting. Grape Juice was an acquired taste, I guess you could say. Wasn't the best, but As It Was really good, for sure. And Matilda, Little Freak were pretty good songs. Cinema was good. Daydreaming I enjoyed. Keep Driving was pretty good. Satellite, Boyfriends and Love of My Life. The final song closed out the album pretty well, in my personal opinion. So I really enjoyed Harry's House by Harry Styles. And sorry about that ding. That's my phone or whatever dinging away. But still, at number 26, I picked Harry Styles with Harry's House. There were some songs I wasn't connecting with too much, but other than that, it was a pretty good album for sure. So, despite my critiques about it. So, definitely go check out my album review for it. Number 27 is James LaBrie with Beautiful Shade of Grey. This was actually an interesting album. He did a cover for a certain band or whatever. I think Led Zeppelin, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure. Ramble On, yes. He did a cover for Ramble On. That was not bad, and Devil and Drag was pretty strong of a track. There were some songs I wasn't sure if I was connecting with, but other than that, it was really good. So, James LaBrie did pretty good on this album. So, highly recommend checking it out. And if it's your kind of style for his solo work. At number 28 is Man with a Mission with Breaking Across the Walls 2. This was actually really good for sure. I really enjoyed this album for what it went for, despite some songs being my least favorites. But I'm just looking at it on my notebook, so give me one moment. Tonight was a good song. More Than Words was great. Blue Soul was like really uplifting with the melody, with how it was sounding, and I enjoyed what it was. All You Need is one of the singles we got back in 2020, I believe. Left Alive was a song in 2019, but it was enjoyable. Perfect Clarity was good. Blaze was good. Rock Kingdom we got back in 2020, and Rain was pretty good. The Dark Crow Breaking Across the Walls version was actually not that bad. I was enjoying it. So, between Fiction and Friction 2 was actually the lengthier part of the second part to it, and it was enjoyable. But there were a lot of songs I wasn't sure if I was on board with, but still, really good album for sure. The final track was the least favorite, in my opinion, but still really good. So at number 28 was Man with a Mission with Breaking Across the Walls 2. Number 29 is Memphis Mayfire with Remade and Misery. Now, the song Misery, or whatever, the 8th song on the album, it mentions the lyric Remade and Misery in the song, and it's growing on me. It's a pretty strong track. I just wasn't sure if I was liking the rapping stuff from it, and I think it's a solid song. So that was probably the least favorite a little bit, but not too much. I have some minor issues with the rapping verse at the opening verse of the song, but it still did pretty solid. So yeah, The Fight Within is a great song. It's very emotional too with how it's sounding with Maddie Mullins singing in it. So I highly recommend you check this out. Then there's they released a lot of singles for this album, but the album did pretty well for what it went for. But still, there was other songs like Blood and Water, Bleed Me Dry, The American Dream, what was it called? I'm trying to remember the track. Somebody was actually pretty interesting, and Death Inside, I think, was the song, is what I was thinking of. Your Turn was pretty good. Make Believe was enjoyable, despite some electronic work that I wasn't sure if I was on board with. But it still felt Matrixy, that song, and it did pretty well. Just, I liked the breakdown at that song. It was pretty good. And there was other songs like Left for Dead, and the song with AJ Channer was pretty good. Only Human. And yeah, there was only 11 songs on this album, but we got like 9 singles out of 11 songs for this album, and that did spoil the album. But hey, if you only listen to a few singles, then count yourself lucky, because they released 9 songs before this album dropped. So that was kind of crazy, but they did what they wanted to do. So at number 29 is Memphis Mayfire with Remade in Misery. At number 30 is Red Handed Denial with I'd Rather Be Asleep. Now this was an enjoyable album for sure. The Cloud 9 song, I wasn't sure if I was on board with, but it was solid. Father Said was pretty good. White Water was enjoyable. There were some other tracks on there that I did enjoy, but other than that, Remade in Misery or not Remade in Misery. I'd Rather Be Asleep, I meant to say. I am really sorry that I screwed up with what I was saying. Red Handed Denial, I'd Rather Be Asleep was enjoyable. So at number 30, I picked Red Handed Denial with I'd Rather Be Asleep. At number 31, this is going to have to be the last one I'll mention, then I'll return to you for the second section of this video, is for Motionless in White with Scoring the End of the World. I like the title track a lot. It ends the album pretty well. And Corpse Nation, the broadcasting from beyond the grave, Corpse Nation was great, for sure. It was better than the Death Incorporated song. I know a lot of people have their critiques about that song, but yeah, it's sort of iffy. But it just depends on the listener, I guess. It was a decent song. It wasn't mind-blowingly great. So, yeah. But still, Scoring the End of the World, Meltdown was great. Sign of Life was great. Werewolf was an acquired taste. It's not my personal favorite, but it's decent. Porcelain was great. Slaughterhouse was amazing, but really gross too. It was a brutal song for sure. But if you like that kind of stuff, then you're gonna like this album for sure. Because this album goes hard. And Chris Motionless sounds really good vocally in this album. So yeah, Masterpiece was great. Cause of Death was great. We Become the Night was great. And Burned at Both Ends 2 was great. Cyberhex was great. And Red White Boom was amazing too. Even with Caleb Shomo singing in it from Beartooth. So yeah, number 31, I picked Motionless in White for Scoring the End of the World. That's going to be it for section 1 of this video. I'll have to return to you for section 2 pretty soon for this video. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this lengthy video. I did the best I could to make it as good as possible. Section 2 will be out soon, so stay safe. Take care, guys. And as always, I will see you in the next section of this Best Albums of 2022 so far, Part 2 video.